Welcome today for our webinar on what's new with Oracle's Agile PLM, the Agile PLM roadmap. So Jeff, let's move to the next screen. Jeff, our VP of Professional Services will be doing the presentation. A quick safe harbor statement on the information that's provided today. And then a quick overview of domain systems. We're the longest standing Agile partner since 1996, so over 20 years of experience in the Agile, specialized in Agile PLM. And content, best practices management. Service capabilities include end-to-end implementations, enterprise application and integrations from application X to Agile, data migrations, cloud migrations, upgrade services, and cloud mapping migration services, business process consulting services, custom development in both of those applications, and managed services to help make sure your system is up and running. All right, Jeff, next slide.
There we go.
So again, our expertise runs on these on-premise Agile A9. You can see the whole product suite and modules, as well as the cloud, the PLM cloud, from innovation management down to product data hub. And then, Jeff, I'm going to turn the rest of the time over to you. And just a few things. If there aren't any questions, over on the right side on the control panel, please submit all your questions through there. And then again, there is a handout as a download. If you take advantage of that, that'd be great. And feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation, and we'll get to it at the end. So again, we appreciate you joining us this morning. And Jeff, I'll turn the rest of the time over to you.
Great, thank you, Nate. Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending. There's 5 areas that I'd like to address today. First of all, where Agile is in the PLM solution space, talking about Agile in relationship to the PLM roadmap, the new release methodology that Oracle Agile is introducing and has been operating on now, coming up on 6 or 8 months or so. And then what the future of Agile is, and then taking advantage of what Agile has to offer from what new things have come out with the new releases, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So to begin with, in order to optimize your return on innovation, you need the value chain is one of, you have some innovation activities, you then develop what those initiatives and ideas are, and then you commercialize those things, basically getting the supply chain and sales, manufacturing, everybody ready to receive. Agile PLM fits in that development realm, right? It's where you're managing the design and engineering and change management of your product and of your content down to your manufacturing location. All right, that's not really anything new, but just to know that it sits in the middle there as the instrument by which you're managing the things that you innovate and that you then later produce. Now, there's 3 core strategies that Oracle is taking relative to PLM applications. The first one here is that they have a commitment to all their customers to support all on-premise applications. That includes Agile. All right, so if you are an on-premise type company, then Agile is here to stay, whatever that means, but Oracle will be there to continue to support that. Then the next one is relative to a cloud strategy. Some companies like to remove that on-premise requirement, technical, capital expense, et cetera, and move towards a cloud solution. Oracle has that in relationship to PLM. And then the last one here is a coexistence, a hybrid type of solution. We have many customers that are going this direction because they have a very mature Agile environment, but yet the cloud PLM offerings offer some value, and they want to take advantage of those things. So three main strategies on-premise, cloud, as well as a hybrid. Now, when we talk about Agile, okay, being the on-premise, that's what this particular webinar is going to focus on. Oracle has transitioned, okay, and this is a big thing. Oracle has transitioned their development model from a waterfall approach, being like an annual release of new features, bug fixes, etc., like that, to a Scrum or sprint model, basically indicating that they're smaller groups. The content of improvements, of fixes, things of that nature is of a smaller set, but yet it comes out in a quicker fashion. So if we look back at the way in which Oracle PLM has come and evolved, in 2015 through 2016, they were basically a waterfall approach, right? You got a 9.3.4 release, then you got a 9.3.5 release a year later. Well, since early January 2017, Oracle has moved to this realm, or this philosophy called RUPs, right? It's a roll-up patch is what RUP stands for. And they release those on roughly a 2 to 3 month basis, right? There again, a RUP is a smaller set of content that will address either improvements and enhancements and new feature sets, as well as patches and SRs. So they're focusing on SRs and engineering or enhancement requests. All right. Third would be a new feature that they want to include. Okay, this allows them to manage and do a similar approach from a development methodology in both cloud as well as on-premise solutions. Now, so we just got done talking about the fact that there are 3 different things. The delivery model is going to be a RUP type patch. It will enhance this process will provide a more speedily and enrich the customer enhancement requests. It will also expand and maintain the PLM focus for an on-premise customer base that wants to maintain a on-premise PLM solution. Now, okay, this basically shows you what I've already told you. Now, this has been what it has been, a 9 to 12 month cadence, but on a random basis, you would get a hot fix delivery because you ran across a bug that just couldn't be fixed otherwise. So those things will not necessarily continue from a hot fix perspective, but that there's this quarterly release of RUPs that will include those fixes. It started in mid 2017, basically in the middle of last year. And at this point in time, for lack of better words, here is the schedule. So that, and the RUPs are available on a 9.3.5 as well as a 9.3.6 platform. The 9.3.5 platform will eventually disappear, but the 9.3.6 will then continue. This information that I'm communicating largely came from the Modern Supply Chain event that happened in February, late January, February, and so it was told to us that 9.3.6, they may go to a 9.3.7, but basically 9.3.6 is the last full point release that would be done, and these RUPs are going to then just continue. Eventually 9.3.5 will be discontinued, but for the time being, they're managing RUP releases on both 9.3.5 and 9.3.6. So if you are not currently on either 9.3.5 or 9.3.6, I would put in your plans and your strategy to upgrade so that you can then maintain and stay current relative to releases of and maintain a current level of support from Oracle. Now, let's go over. So there were several common enhancements between, from these RUPs, that from the 936 base release to what is currently, which is 936.4, because they have released 4 RUPs since the release of 936. So these are some of the things from a common services perspective. Things such as number formats have been improved and provided. The extended PX access capability not only was released in 936 from a core perspective, but also enhanced as subsequent reps have come through. From a product, but you guys can read the slide. From a product collaboration module perspective, enabling smart rules to disallow ECO releases with outstanding red lines. You've got some additional workflow required attributes that are available. For example, new rev attribute being a requirement. The searching for job function, if you're using the approval matrix, pop-up window has been changed and updated. Things of that nature. If we look at administration perspective, being able to advance search on the file manager information, that's been updated. The ability to support single sign-on delay time configuration, that was in the latest RUP that was put out there. PPM, we're talking about enabling multiple resource pool owners. Prior to this, it was released, but we don't know which RUP it was. That's why the question mark is there. The ability to have multiple resource pool owners, adding in discovery of the content tab to mirror the attachments tab, things of that nature. From an engineering collaboration perspective, we've got web services for item bomb and attachment publishing now. There are API improvements to better handle the attribute data in these various types of lists. So these are, sorry about the overlap there, but these are some details around what came out in relationship to each RUP. Again, it's 936.1 is RUP number 1. So we've got things such as the bomb explosion provided the wrong revision. That has been fixed. So these are patches and fixes where that was a large focus of RUP 1. Okay, when we go to 932, or excuse me, RUP 2, what's new is you've got some administration stuff with the SSO logout delay. Is searching by the job function. Those were the things that were encompassed in RUP 2. And below that are all the issues and patches that have been applied to that. So lots of SR fixes and patches that are coming around in these RUPs. In RUP 3, the change in where you designate the AutoView host and port. They've been removed in order to apply this patch. You've got some administration things again, as well as the workflow notification enhancement. And then, of course, on the right, you've got all of your issues and patches that will have been addressed. For the most current RUP, okay, you've got the ability to import multi-list in an appending mode. Where before it was an overlap, right? It overlaid and basically replaced as you were doing some import. Also, the ability for reviewer changes during the workflow status is now captured inside of the history tab when that occurs, as well as then some of these issues and patches that took place. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these things from a visual and end user perspective. Might put things in better context for you. So prior to 936, well, with the initial release of 936, basically the user ID was displayed in the name column. So you didn't have a name, you had the user ID. Well, that has been improved, or I guess updated and fixed, for lack of better words, in RUP 4 of 936, to where now you not only have a user ID, but you've also got the first name and last name of the individual. So much more clear, much more articulate relative to what the job function pop-up window is displaying. From a routed date perspective, right now inside the notifications as well as the workflow routings tab, you have a date that is there's telling you when it came into your inbox. All right, the workflow routings does not have that routed date yet, but the notifications does. But you can tie those things together in relationship to when you receive that workflow routing, a notification is provided to you. So you can understand when it came in to your workflow routings via the notifications tab. The date it was, the solution has been added to a routed date to the workflow routings has later been provided. This previous slide was what was missing. Now it's there. It's also been added to the sourcing projects and RFQs. You know, if you are the date owner was assigned. When we talk about notifying other reviewers, can now be controlled at the workflow status level. So previously, it was in a nature that when you sent in the existing behavior, the user can always notify all reviewers. Okay, now you're able to specify which reviewers you want to notify. All right, so it was an all or nothing previously. Now it allows you to block certain users from notifying other users. So as an example, here we go. Here's the solution that's provided. So inside of the workflow status section, the upper portion of that configuration page, there down at the very bottom, the last attribute to right underneath password required is where you allow users to enable notify reviewers on comment on whatever, whether it be comment, acknowledgement, or the approval or rejection. And that little checkbox will then now show up based upon what selection is there. So more control over who's being notified when somebody approves something. The sign-off role change. So prior to 932, a user saw the fact that they were assigned as both an observer as well as an approver, and what to do. Well, now what is in place is the ability to reconcile that on resolving duplicates. And you can set a rule in place, for lack of better words. The right-hand side identifies the rule that would be played in relationship to what do I want to do when I am duplicated, when I am duplicating an approver and an observer. So then it will automatically strip out those duplicates based upon the rule set that you put in, that you selected in the middle screen. A new capability of required or exit required attributes has been there in relationship to the new rev. So upon exiting a particular workflow status, new rev is now an attribute that is can be identified as a required requirement in order to leave a particular status. So you can catch it now earlier then the default now, the default prior to this was you could not go to release without that new rev being in place. Now you can have that certainly identified and required well before release in your business process. Excuse me. There's now a new smart rule for auditing outstanding attachment red lines. It defaults to warning, but the other choices are don't allow or ignore. So those two choices are now available in relationship to moving forward with red lines. Excuse me. So you know, these are just the screenshots that that show up in relationship to how the behavior is in relationship to the warning sign right now. Now PX control, evidently there were many enhancement requests provided that in two fashions. One along the tools menu, but also along who can run those particular process extensions. In some cases, process extensions are only desired to run for in document control as they perform their administrative or their analyst type role, functions. Unfortunately, initially there was process extensions were visible for everybody, and unfortunately, in some cases, the way the process extension was written, it did not limit people from anybody from running it. So there is now the ability to number one, see the process extension. Okay, as you can see here in the administration, the process extension, there's an attribute called user role required to see the PX. And what that means is the fact that a particular user would now have to belong to a specific role or comprise of a specific role in order to see the PX. All right, that way you're able to control who sees and who can perform different process extension execution. In addition to that, so for example, here's the example here is relative to the compliance manager role. They see the export AXML role where if they did not have the compliance manager role, then the user would not see any export AXML function. So you can see the difference here. See, so there it is with the role. There it is without, and notice that the export AXML is now missing. Okay. In addition to that, based upon events, a similar type of ability to limit access to who can run events driven from the actions menu is also identified. When you're configuring the event, there is a user role required to see the PX attribute that is in the configuration page. That now, again, similar to what we just talked about, you can specify specific roles in order for a user to be able to trigger that event. From a subscribing on file actions, the expansion of what types of subscriptions are available. Now, the get, open, and view file functions are now available for subscription, so that when somebody gets a particular file from a record, the notification can go out to whoever has subscribed to it. This also is available in relationship to the SDK and web services. There we go. So that's your little notification. The last area is dealing with the exporting of attachment history. Historically, when you exported attachments from a bill of material, you could export all attachments from all levels of the bill of material. But the notation in the history tab only showed up on that top level. Now the solution has been made so that it will write a history record or a history entry on every file folder that in that bill of material structure. So for each component of the bill of material structure, it will write a history record indicating that an export file attachment was occurred on a particular folder that was associated to that particular item number. So there, got a variety of different images here, slides that show different pictorial representations, screen prints from what is happening here. But at the end of the day, every level of the file attachment on the history tab is now being written. You can also export it and export that history report so that you can see here who has exported file attachments. The reviewer change, you're also, as you remove or add an approver on a change order, that is now being captured on the history tab. Previously, it wasn't. You could manipulate who was going to sign off, not sign off, and there was no history record identified for that particular change object. Now they are all being added as you remove and or add once it goes into a particular status. So, all right, and then the last item here is the appending of the multi-list value import. Now you can, it can just append without totally overriding and replacing what was there before. So very nice option here, so that you don't overwrite instead of just appending. Now, when we talk about the uptake relative to certified hardware, software, technology stack, here are the things that are that 936.4, the fourth RUP certification matrix is. You'll notice that in one of the RUPs, the Oracle database version support was improved to 12C R2, so that it includes a pluggable database. So anyway, you've got the new database server that is now available, and so this is the certification matrix for 936.4. Relative to coordinating the releases, I don't need to read through all of this stuff, but as in previous releases, the you've got some staggering elements as improvements come about, but for lack of better words, everything is up to date from a 936 base core level. And from a PIP perspective, everything is available from a design to release PIP perspective for 936. For additional information, you can certainly go to a variety of different locations. You can certainly find out the understanding the Agile release update packs. So these are the RUP packs that you can download from either our site, or you can download them from the support site. Apologize, I meant to include a couple slides that went through that process. If you request the slide deck here, those few slides will be in there as relative to how you can find the README files for all the RUP releases that have taken place. But other than that, you've got the blogs at Oracle, you've got the information from the Oracle Agile PLM website, PLM community, et cetera, et cetera. So from that, so are there any questions that may have come in, Nate?
Yeah, Jeff, there's a few. Let's start with this one. Is there a reason that Oracle decided PX visibility should not be managed as a privilege?
I have no idea. I don't know what decisions were made other than why they didn't do it as a privilege versus a role. I have no idea. Probably because a role is given to a group of people and it incorporates that privilege, but I have no idea. That was a decision that is certainly outside of any, I think, any partner's purview.
Okay. Next one is there a change in the PIP version from 933 to 936?
Yes. The PIP version, yes, there is. But it also, if for those people that are running EBS, you know that you have to match up the version of the PIP based upon your Agile version and your EBS version. So I can't, yes, there is a difference. 933, Agile 933 has a certain version of PIP that works with a certain version of Oracle EBS. So it takes 3 variables to be aligned in order to know what version of the PIP you're going to be using.
Okay. Okay, so the next one is duplicates resolve functionality. Can this be done via SDK also?
I don't recall, number one, I don't recall it being mentioned or in any of the RUP documentation as to whether that can be handled via SDK or not. You could certainly bypass it, or you could ignore the error in the SDK that pops up. But from a resolution and from a removal, I don't know. My initial thinking is no, because you have to establish what behavior you want it to take place. And so my hunch is no, it's not. But I haven't seen any documentation indicating that it does or doesn't.
Okay, so maybe one we'll keep an eye open for. The next one, are there security enhancements that you know of that have been mapped out in the RUP releases?
Outside of the SSO stuff that was mentioned, no additional security enhancements. I guess I would look for more information as to what type of additional security that the person's keeping an eye on that is not already addressed.
Okay. The next one, let's see here. There's a lot of questions on the slide deck. Yeah, we'll make those available for everybody. When applying a RUP, should we plan to physically shut down production and cut over similar to an actual upgrade?
Yes, you would want to do that, yes. And from a RUP upgrade or from applying a RUP perspective, you'll definitely want to run it through your testing and your formal release process where you deploy it in a test environment, run through your test scripts and verification that nothing quote unquote broke and that everything works properly, and then of course roll it out into production as you would any other upgrade.
Okay, 1 or 2 more questions. So this was from a medical device company. So if we do a RUP, do we have to validate every time it takes place?
Great question. I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm going to leave that up to the individual that manages that compliance to your FDA validation. But my input into that would be, I would look at what the RUP is addressing and structure a strategy of what you need to validate accordingly. Right, with a brand new release, you're basically uninstalling hard or software, reinstalling an entirely new application. With a RUP, it's almost like an incremental improvement with information. I would say that you need to develop your own strategy around that. Some compliance groups are more strict than others. As you know, it's left to interpretation. And so you just need to do what you feel is necessary in order to stand in front of an auditor and justify your rationale for validation.
And I think this next question kind of rolls into that. So what if they don't need the RUP? Can they skip it, or is it something that you need to do?
No, you can skip it. You certainly can skip it. The RUPs are cumulative, right? So what was in RUP 1 is also included in RUP 2. And so you can skip them. You can do an annual, for example, and just do RUP 4 if you want. There's no reason why you couldn't, other than just staying current. That would be the reason.
Okay, perfect. I don't see any other questions. Just let me double check here. One more. How will security patches be handled? How will critical security patches be handled?
The same way that they're handled today, right? Oracle sends out their little notification, and most of that is on different applications. The technology stack that Oracle is on relative to WebLogic and Oracle RDBMS and the Agile application. The same way that Oracle is communicating the critical security patches, that will continue the same way. And if there is a security patch that is needed from a standpoint of Agile application, then that, of course, would more than likely be involved in a RUP. But anything to do with the RDBMS, Oracle RDBMS software, that would be handled through the normal, traditional notify the world that there's a critical patch for Oracle's database software.
Okay, Jeff, I don't see any more that came in. We appreciate you guys joining us this morning for this webinar. Here's our contact information. You can always reach out to your friendly domain systems representative that you're currently working with. And again, we appreciate you taking a few minutes this morning, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.